Good evening, everyone. This is In the News with Vlog Media Breeze. So as you recall, I did tell you that I was going to come on here and talk to you about the the President Biden and Putin meeting that took place on June 16th, which was this past Wednesday. Leading up to the talks, there was a lot of preparation, whereas both leaders had their secretaries. Biden had his Secretary of State. Putin had the Prime Minister of Russia come together and piece together how the talks would go. They talked about any elements that each leader may have had against each other and how that would go. And they were trying to really ease this meeting because there is a major Cold War going on. It has been going on because of Russia's really invasion of the Ukraine and amongst a lot of other things. So on this agenda for this meeting, I want to go over the agenda. The meeting was estimated to last about 5 hours. And when I look at this agenda, you could really spend 5 hours talking about one or two of these topics. But it says the agenda for the president's meeting was expected to include strategic stability, climate change, as well as nuclear stability, arms control, cybersecurity, and potentially a range of other topics, including the fate of jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny. It also was supposed to include the interest in the Ukraine from both parties, or from both states, both countries, I'm sorry. Also Belarus, and the outlook for Russian and United States nationals who are imprisoned in each other's countries. So that is just a piece of this agenda that was supposed to be discussed during the meeting. And I will go ahead and tell you the meeting lasted 2 hours. A lot of people are saying it lasted about 3 hours. It did not. It lasted well under 3 hours. It was about 2 hours. And after that 2-hour meeting, Biden was on his way back to the U.S. Before coming back to the United States, Biden, of course, did a press conference wherein he became a little outlandish against the press. I really didn't like his behavior against the press. He ended up walking off the stage at the end of it, and I believe that might have been due to his frustrations about how the meeting had transitioned and ended. Putin, on the other hand, also gave a press conference, and he lied. Okay, so I want to talk about his lie. He lied on Black Lives Matter, number one. And I also believe he lied on Navalny and the reasons that Navalny is in prison. He never said his name, but he did talk enough about him that we knew who he was talking about. So those were the things. And for those of you who don't know, NATO is an alliance between about 29 other countries, the European Union, being major. Russia is part of Europe. It is part of Eastern Europe, right? It also has a piece of it that is in China or in Asia. So that's why, whenever we wonder why they are so supportive of China, well, part of their country lies in Asia. So, but most of the residents, the people in Russia, most of them live on the European side of the country. That being said, Russia is not a direct part of NATO. They are a partner with NATO, which means that, and there are other countries that are partners as well, but NATO is always trying to get them to join the Union. Russia says they do not join the Union because they believe it would open up some other ideas, militarily speaking, against Russia. I don't know where that's coming from. It doesn't make sense whenever I read NATO, but I'll spare you that. Okay, so one of the things that Putin said during his press conference after the meeting, because the meeting only lasted 2 hours. It lasted 2 hours. So that is not enough to cover what the agenda was presented as. What I believe happened at the meeting was there was a breakdown in the communication, whether it was spoken or not spoken. There was a breakdown and one or the other did not want to move forward or could not move forward. And Putin is a tyrant, right? He's an autocrat. He really is. And so whenever you are dealing with someone like that, who wants that kind of power and control, and who is also committed crimes against his own people, that is a person who really, you guys, for lack of a better word, doesn't give a D, you know? You can't say this on YouTube, but he doesn't give a DAMN, okay? He doesn't. He really does not care. Almost reminds me of Monica over there at All About the Tea, quite frankly. I digress. But people who don't care, what do you do about that? That's a behavioral issue. And Joe Biden called it out. He said it's a behavioral issue. So I want to read to you what he said in his press conference about Black Lives Matter. And this, I'm reading from, I think it's pronounced Reuters. I promise my voice diction used to be better. As I've gotten older, it's just like diminishing, but it's Reuters. Russian President Vladimir Putin battled away a question about his crackdown on political rivals on Wednesday by saying he was trying to avoid the disorder of a popular movement such as Black Lives Matter in the United States. Now, this was his answer whenever the press asked him about not allowing people in Russia to freely speak, because that's one of the reasons that Navalny is in prison, and even while he was in prison, he was poisoned. I don't know what happened. He's still alive, so pray for him, because he's trying. It's real sad. It's real sad. I digress. I'm going to finish reading this. Putin, speaking at a news conference after a summit with the United States President Joe Biden in Geneva, said he did not want to see something like the Black Lives Matter movement happen in Russia, but also criticized the arrest of many of those who attacked the United States Capitol on January 6th. So he's criticizing the arrest of the insurrectionists while illegitimizing Black Lives Matter. I'm going to read further, and this is quote, unquote. It says, America just recently had a very severe, and this is Putin saying this, America just recently had very severe events, well-known events after the killing of an African American. An entire movement developed known as Black Lives Matter, he said. What we saw was disorder, disruption, violations of the law, etc. We feel sympathy for the United States of America, but we don't want that to happen on our territory, and we will do our utmost in order to not allow it to happen, he said. He then seemed to question the legitimacy of the arresting the January 6th rioters, or insurrectionists, I call them insurrectionists, who sought to stop Biden's certification as president after he beat Donald Trump in a general election by over 7 million votes. People came to the United States Congress with political demands. Over 400 people had criminal charges placed on them. They're being called domestic terrorists. They're being accused of other crimes, Putin said. So Biden's response to that was, Biden said in his own news conference afterward that any comparison between what happened on January the 6th and the Black Lives Matter movement was ridiculous. And it's one thing for literally criminals to break through a cordon, go into the Capitol, kill a police officer, and be held unaccountable than it is for people objectively marching on the United States Capitol and saying, you are not allowing me to speak freely. So that was Biden's response to that. So you can see that Putin is legitimizing the insurrectionists while bashing Black Lives Matter. That tells you about the mindset of an autocrat and a tyrant. That tells you that, right? He doesn't even acknowledge the fact that if these same insurrectionists went in and did the same thing in Russia, how would he feel then? would definitely have them arrested and poisoned, quite frankly. Okay? So the man is out of touch with himself. When you see people in this world, and this isn't the first time I've seen this, people, okay? It happened on college campuses, on the college campus where I went to college, even with I was a black female. She was out of touch with the reality of what is right and what is wrong. And this is what happens when people are not reared properly sometimes. They're given everything that they want. No one corrects them. No one tells them, this is how you treat people, how you don't. This is why it's so important to raise your children in the way that they should go. They should acknowledge other people's feelings and what is going on with other people in terms of their development, so that they will have some kind of mental balance and be aware even of themselves. But as we see here, Putin is honoring the insurrectionists while really saying a bunch of negative things about Black Lives Matter. Now, were there some things that happened during the Black Lives Matter marches that I disagreed with? Wholeheartedly, because we have to remember, when Dr. Martin Luther King and people of that era marched, that's my mother's generation as well, okay? There was peace. They were not going in, breaking in businesses. They weren't doing all these things. They were having a peaceful march, holding up their signs. So this thing with tearing down a city, tearing down people's businesses, that's not good, because you can literally cause people who run those same businesses to end up homeless. You can. So I disagree with that. And I can go on and on and on about that. When there is a march, it does need to be peaceful, and there needs to be no breaking into buildings, throwing bricks into businesses, just blindly doing crazy things, littering. Shouldn't even litter. Just march, say your chant, and keep it moving. Do not get in the face of the police. Just march and keep it moving. Okay? So that part I disagree with this time around with the movement. And there should have been a voice out there, because I like the movement, but there should have been a voice out there about a lot of that. There should have been a strong voice. I will say this, and I know I'm going to sound hypocritical. I did not disagree with what they did with the precincts, because what the precincts were doing against black men, I mean, you can't just murder people. You can't just take people's lives. You can't do that. That brings out a spirit in people. It does. It brings out a spirit in people, and people react to that thing. You are really getting into the soul of people when you do that. So I digress. I just wanted to say that. However, I think that Putin is a racist. I really do. I think he is a racist. I think I agree with everything that Biden has ever said about him. And I think that we all need to pray for the leaders of these countries, and we need to pray for the return of Christ. This is a major Cold War that's happening. Even some of the talks that have taken place after the meeting, it lets me know that NATO is gearing up. They're gearing up. They want Russia out of the Ukraine. They want them out. They have a lot of demands, and Russia did not succumb to them. That's why that meeting ended after 2 hours. So I digress. And thank you guys for listening. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think about this commentary. Also, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to coming back. I want you to stay here because, of course, you know, if you listen or if you pay any attention in these YouTube streets, you will know that Monica has been revealed. All About the Tea has definitely been revealed. I'm about to come on next and do that one for you, okay? So what I like to say at the end of my talk is many blessings to you all, okay? And thank you for listening to me. Bye.